In the summer of 1981, a rock band called Crimson Haze was becoming one of the most talked about groups in America. They were four young men in their early 20s with long hair, flashy clothes, and wild dreams. The band had just released their second album, and it was climbing the music charts fast. Their songs were playing on every radio station, and fans were lining up outside stadiums just to catch a glimpse of them. They had talent, looks, and energy, and their concerts sold out in minutes. Reporters followed them everywhere. Magazines featured them on their covers, and teenagers hung posters of them in their bedrooms. Everything seemed perfect, but none of them could have imagined what was about to happen on a sunny August morning when they boarded a private jet that was supposed to take them to their next concert in Miami. The plane was small but luxurious. It had leather seats, a minibar, and plenty of room for the band to relax. The pilot was experienced, and the weather that day was clear and calm. The group had just played a show in New Orleans and were excited to head to their next gig. Witnesses at the airport said the band was in a good mood, laughing and joking as they boarded. The jet took off without any issues. Air traffic control cleared their path, and everything seemed routine. But halfway through the flight, something strange happened. The jet suddenly stopped communicating with ground control. No distress signal was sent. No emergency call. 1 minute they were flying normally, and the next they had vanished from radar screens. It was as if the plane had disappeared into thin air. When authorities realized they had lost contact with the jet, they began a search right away. The Coast Guard sent helicopters and boats. Planes flew over the Gulf of Mexico, scanning the water for any sign of debris. Nothing was found. Not a single piece of the jet, not a scrap of metal, not even an oil slick. It was as if the plane had never existed. The families of the band members were devastated. Fans all over the world were shocked. News reports ran day and night, trying to guess what had happened. Some thought it was a crash. Others believed it might have been a hijacking. A few even whispered about strange possibilities, like the plane getting caught in a secret military operation or vanishing into another dimension. But with no evidence, no wreckage, and no answers, the case grew cold. Over the next several years, rumors continued to spread. People claimed to have seen the band in foreign countries, in the jungle, even on small islands. But every lead turned out to be false. The band became legends, not just because of their music, but because of the mystery. Documentaries were made. Books were written. Fans refused to believe they were gone. And all the while, the ocean kept it secret. The jet remained hidden beneath the waves, buried under years of silence and salt water. Until one day, nearly 2 decades later, something finally changed. It was the year 2000, and the U.S. Navy was on a routine training mission off the coast of Florida. A research team had been testing new underwater sonar equipment designed to help detect objects deep in the ocean. The technology was powerful and could scan the ocean floor more clearly than ever before. The team had no idea they were about to make one of the most shocking discoveries in music history. At first, the sonar picked up a strange shape lying deep beneath the water. It was long and narrow, and it didn't match any natural rock formations. The crew decided to investigate. Using underwater cameras, they sent a remote-operated vehicle down to take a closer look. As the camera slowly moved through the dark, murky water, the shape started coming into focus. What they saw made everyone fall silent. It was a small private jet, badly rusted but mostly intact, lying at the bottom of the sea. The plane's body was covered in algae and rust, and the tail had snapped off, but there was no mistaking it. The markings on the fuselage matched the jet that had vanished in 1981, with the band Crimson Haze on board. The discovery sent shockwaves through the Navy and the press. News channels broke into regular programming to announce the find. After 19 years, the mystery of the missing band might finally have an answer. The Navy quickly organized a recovery operation. It took days of careful planning and coordination. The jet was fragile after years underwater, and any wrong move could break it apart. Divers secured the aircraft with strong cables, and slowly, inch by inch, it was lifted from the deep. As the rusted jet rose above the ocean's surface, a crowd of reporters and onlookers watched from the shore in stunned silence. When the plane was finally placed onto the deck of a Navy ship, investigators swarmed it. They were looking for anything, any clue that could explain what happened. Inside the jet, they found items that belonged to the band: a broken guitar, old leather jackets, and even a few photographs still sealed in plastic. These things hadn't seen the light of day in nearly 2 decades, yet some were surprisingly well preserved. But the most haunting discovery came from the passenger seats. Human remains were found still strapped into them, dressed in the same clothes seen in concert photos from 1981. DNA tests would later confirm what many already feared. The remains belonged to the members of Crimson Haze. The news was heartbreaking, but brought some form of closure. After so many years of waiting, families now had answers. The band hadn't run away. They hadn't faked their deaths, and they hadn't ended up on some remote island. They had died in a tragic accident, alone and lost at sea. But the biggest question still remained: what caused the crash? Why had there been no distress signal? Why did the jet disappear so completely without a trace? After the jet was recovered, a team of aviation experts, engineers, and investigators came together to examine it carefully. Everyone wanted to know what had caused the crash. They hoped that after 19 years, the plane could still reveal the truth. The first step was to check the black box, also known as the flight data recorder. It stores important flight information, including speed, altitude, and conversations from the cockpit. To their surprise, the black box was still in place, though it was badly damaged. The Navy sent it to a special lab where experts worked day and night trying to repair and extract the data. It took weeks, but finally, they were able to hear a portion of the last moments of the flight. What they heard raised even more questions. The recording started normally. The pilot spoke with air traffic control, giving updates about their location and confirming their flight path. Everyone sounded calm. There was no sign of panic. Then, suddenly, the voices became quiet. Strange static noises filled the recording, followed by what sounded like the band talking to each other in confusion. One of them asked what was going on. Another mentioned that the plane was dropping altitude. But there was no engine noise, no explosion, and no mayday call. Then the tape went silent. Investigators were puzzled. There was no sign of mechanical failure, no fire, and no sign that the pilot tried to land the plane. It was like the jet simply shut down midair and fell straight into the ocean without warning. While studying the jet, experts noticed something else unusual. The fuel tanks were almost full, which meant the plane didn't run out of gas. The engine parts, though rusted, showed no signs of damage or malfunction. Even the weather that day in 1981 had been reported as clear and calm. All signs pointed to a perfectly safe flight, until it wasn't. The deeper the investigators looked, the stranger it all seemed. Some started to believe that a rare and sudden electrical failure might have caused everything to shut down at once, including communication systems. Others thought about more unusual causes, like interference from magnetic fields or even sabotage. But with the limited evidence, no one could be sure. As the news of the discovery spread, the world responded with mixed emotions. Fans of Crimson Haze held candlelight vigils and played their music in tribute. Radio stations across the country dedicated entire nights to their songs. People who had grown up listening to their records now shared the story with their children. The band's mystery had finally been solved, but their legend had only grown stronger. Music stores saw a sudden rise in sales of their albums. Old videos of concerts were shared online, and new fans began to discover the energy and passion that had made Crimson Haze so special. For many, the band's tragic ending didn't take away from their greatness. It added a haunting chapter to their already powerful story. Even though investigators had done their best, the exact cause of the crash remained unknown. But one thing was now certain: the band had not been forgotten. After almost 2 decades of silence, their story was finally back in the light. And for those who had waited all these years for answers, the truth, even without full explanation, was something they could finally hold on to. In the months that followed the recovery of the jet, the story of Crimson Haze captured the hearts of millions. People across the world were talking about them again, not just because of how they died, but because of how much their music had meant to so many. Fans gathered in cities where the band had once played, leaving flowers, candles, and handwritten notes. In their hometown, a special memorial concert was held in honor of the four young musicians. Famous artists who had been inspired by Crimson Haze performed their songs on stage, and the emotional event was broadcast on national television. For many people, it felt like the band had finally received a goodbye they never got in 1981. The families of the band members, who had waited so long for answers, stood together and thanked everyone for never forgetting their sons. Tears were shared, but there was also comfort in knowing that the world still cared. Meanwhile, the mystery continued to spark curiosity. Documentaries were made with titles like The Final Flight of Crimson Haze and Vanished in the Sky. Investigators, both official and independent, tried to dig deeper into what might have happened. Some even suggested that the jet may have flown into a rare type of storm that left no evidence. Others thought there might have been a hidden defect in the plane's wiring that had gone unnoticed during inspections. A few people clung to more far-fetched ideas, like secret government projects or even time shifts. But for most, the real focus was not on what took the band away, but what they left behind: their music, their energy, and their spirit. Something else strange happened after the discovery. A number of songs that had never been released before were found among the items pulled from the jet. These demo tapes were in a waterproof case, and though some had been damaged, a few tracks were still playable. Music experts restored them, and soon the world was listening to lost songs that Crimson Haze had recorded before their final flight. The songs were raw, emotional, and full of passion. Fans described them as a gift from the past. An album of these recovered tracks was released under the title Echoes from the Sky, and it became an instant hit. Young people who had never heard of Crimson Haze before suddenly became fans, and the band's music was once again climbing the charts. In the end, Crimson Haze's story became more than just a tragedy. It was a tale of youth, dreams, and the power of music to live on even when life is cut short. The plane that once held four rising stars had rested beneath the ocean for nearly 20 years, but it had not erased them. Instead, it had kept their final moments safe until the world was ready to remember. Their journey had ended in silence, but their legacy continued to sing loudly in the hearts of millions. People still play their songs at parties, on long drives, and during quiet nights, feeling a little closer to the band that once captured the sound of a generation. Though they vanished in 1981, Crimson Haze will never truly be gone.